got 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're gonna use Roses or, are you with Rose?
We have
Yes,
one more.
yeah,
You
we
have to
can,
get-
We have one more down.
One more's coming.
How many people need a press release?
I did.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 7.
We got 7.
I can print more if you want. If somebody doesn't have it, we'll give it to them.
Hello. Well, here is the call.
I'm good. Can you need more room?
It was awesome.
Thank you, man.
Mark, waiting for you. Who else needs one?
It's not here yet.
I'll get you one more. Let me print one more. Let me print 2 more. I
Hey,
forgot.
Midge.
I forgot.
Set it up. How are you?
How many more do we need out there?
Grab some extras. Just type.
I know we're streaming, so last time,
Yeah. Does anyone else need a press?
I didn't realize we were
We need
streaming.
one.
You guys, your technology's
Yeah,
advancing.
we're streaming again, we're streaming again.
I got it this time. So it's 1:28, usually I'm late for these, but we're gonna start actually early today.
That's good when
Hopefully we
you
don't get anybody else that's coming, but, I'm happy to report, we made an arrest, a homicide that occurred, yesterday at the Casa Village Apartments here in Cranston. We arrested today, a short time ago, around 10:30, with the assistance of the Massachusetts State Police, Violent Future Task Force, Boston Police Department, Cranston Police Detectives, Rhode Island Violent Future Task Force, U.S. Marshals, all took part in an arrest of Demaro Montero, Fall River, Massachusetts. He was arrested for the murder yesterday, so he's been charged with first-degree murder, 1 count, and likely some other charges will follow. The murder happened yesterday at approximately 9:21 a.m. We were notified of a person lying in the parking lot of that apartment complex. Our officers responded and found a young man identified as Eduardo Laurent Colin, age 16, in Providence, fatally shot at that location. He had a single gunshot wound to his chest and was pronounced deceased at that location. The detectives did an outstanding job. Here we are, a little over 24 hours later, with the subject in custody. The preliminary investigation and surveillance footage captured the homicide at that location at 2:53 a.m., where 4 shots were fired, 1 fatally striking the victim. During the confrontation, there were 3 people that exited a stolen vehicle that arrived at the apartment complex, one of them being the victim. All 3 of these individuals were wearing masks, dark clothing, and we believe were planning to steal a vehicle at that location. For some reason, and we do not know the motive, Damare produced a handgun and fatally shot the 16-year-old that was with them. So they all arrived in the vehicle together. The individuals fled the area. Obviously, the victim was fatally shot and remained at that location until he was found the following day. We were able to use a lot of technology to track the individual after this occurred. We recovered 40 caliber shell casings from the scene. As I mentioned, the video capturing the incident, and we seized 2 vehicles connected to the investigation. We worked with our partner agencies, Providence Police, Fall River Police Department, Coventry Police Department, and Rhode Island Attorney General's office during the investigation, which led to this quick apprehension. And again, I can't commend the detectives enough. They normally would be here, but they're still chasing leads. This investigation is far from over at this time. So the individual was arrested, I think I mentioned, at 10:20 a.m. approximately on Fuller Street in Dorchester, Massachusetts. At that time, the fugitive task forces made entry into the apartment and arrested the suspect without incident. We believe there are firearms inside the residence. The Massachusetts State Police are in the process of obtaining a court-authorized search warrant to search that location for those firearms. And we're hoping that one of the firearms was used in our homicide, as well as on the other evidence that may connect them to our homicide here in Cranston. He is currently in Boston Police custody. He will be arraigned as a fugitive from justice at some point. We will hopefully get him extradited back here to Rhode Island. As you know, that's a process that takes place. We don't know if Massachusetts will have criminal charges, depends on what is found in that location. He was not living at that address. He had a female acquaintance he was staying with overnight. He fled to that area after the homicide. He does reside in Fall River, Massachusetts. And I just, myself and the major had the unfortunate task of informing the 16-year-old's mother and sister about the death of their loved one. And I can tell you that is a difficult thing to do for us. And this is a young man. It was a senseless tragedy, a senseless act of violence. We still don't quite understand why this murder took place. But our thoughts are with his family as they grieve the loss of their son and brother. So anybody out there, there might be other people out there that have information that led up to this incident. We're asking that they contact the Cranston Police Detective Division. We also have an anonymous tips line that's in the press releases. So that's completely anonymous, and we can communicate back and forth in that manner. So the investigation's far from over, but there is another individual that we believe might have conspired to commit this crime, and we're working to identify him and also bring him to justice. So we believe there were 2 suspects, 1 shooter and 1 person that conspired. And so our goal is to identify the other person. Based on the great work that our detectives do, I believe we'll be successful in that. But very happy there is some level of closure for the family, but this is an unusual incident. I mentioned yesterday, we go to that apartment complex very rarely. It's a very quiet neighborhood. I know you all spoke with the neighbors there. They'll tell you that rarely does anything like this happen. Cranston remains a very safe city, but the bottom line is we are a city of 80,000 residents. At the end of the day, there's gonna be crime. And I can tell you any major incident that's happened in the city has been solved quickly thanks to the great work of our detective division and our patrol officers. So I'll take any questions you have at this time.
Do you have a description of the conspirator you were looking for, Ray?
We will put that out. Unfortunately, these individuals are wearing dark clothing and hoods and masks, so obviously that makes it difficult, but we will put out a basic description, but it's gonna be pretty basic, so that's why we haven't really put it out as of yet.
Colonel, again, the victim arrived with the other 2 at that apartment complex.
Yes, they arrived in a stolen vehicle that was stolen out of Fall River a few days before this incident. There was some implements recovered at the scene that lead us to believe that they were attempting possibly to steal another vehicle. And these three individuals exited the vehicle together at the same time. And at some point, unexplicitly, this individual, Damari, turned and he brandished the firearm and shot the victim dead at that location. So we don't know what led up to that, but we clearly have good evidence.
Do you know where they had been prior to that?
We know that they were at the Dominican Festival earlier in the evening, and they were cruising around with friends, and not sure prior to that where they were, but again, the license plate reader technology aided us in this investigation. I always make sure that I mention that, how important that technology is.
Is there any reason they would be targeting that apartment complex, or did it appear to be a random location?
I think it was a random location. We have had cars stolen from that location, but it's right over the Providence line. It's an opportunity, I guess, to possibly steal a vehicle, but I don't think there's any other reason. There's no specific reason to go to that location other than there was several vehicles there.
What do we know so far about how these individuals knew each other prior to that night?
We know they were loosely acquainted through other individuals. Obviously, they're not from Providence, they're from Fall River, and we believe the other suspect is from Boston. So, but we believe that the connection to the victim was through mutual friends.
How pivotal was that surveillance footage in kind of piecing together what happened here?
I mean, anytime you get an actual video of a homicide, it doesn't happen that often, and it was a very clear video. A lot of times you go to an apartment complex, the camera's facing another direction, or it's an old system that, is grainy. This was extremely clear, had audio as well, so you could hear shots, and literally it happened right in front of the camera. So that was helpful, but there was a lot of detective work that needed to be done because, again, they were wearing dark clothing, hoods, and things of that nature. So, again, these detectives worked round the clock, literally from 9:21 a.m., and I was here pretty late myself, and then the next morning, right through the night, and to make sure the subject got placed in custody without incident. A very dangerous individual.
How challenging was that for you guys in terms of the fact that the body was there for roughly 6 hours? Did that make it more challenging for you?
Not really. Again, we had the video evidence, and the medical examiner's office arrived, and we were able to collect. A lot of the evidence wasn't really disturbed. There was one vehicle that was struck by a round, and you might have heard the story, but her window was shattered, and she didn't realize it. She went to work and heard like a whistling noise and realized the window was shattered. What's unusual is there's 4 very distinct shots that go off, and not a single person called the police. And I don't know if they thought it was fireworks. I'm not sure the reason being, but we frequently get calls for noise complaints and things of that nature. So I was a bit surprised about that, but the video surveillance was a really big piece of evidence for us.
Will you be releasing any of that surveillance footage?
No, unfortunately, we need to close hold that because it's going to be part of the prosecution, and especially if other witnesses come forward or other suspects, that's going to be a key piece that people have an intimate knowledge of what happened, so we won't be able to release that.
Did they leave the scene in the same stolen car?
Yes, they did.
Was that 16-year-old sort of obscured by other vehicles, on the ground, or like how was it? How visible was he, from where he was lying?
Not very visible. So he was lying next to a car towards the bike path. There's a fence there, so he was in between a car and a fence. Nobody would really walk there until the morning. So he was laying there from around 2:30 a.m. all the way to 9:21 a.m. when we got the call.
That suspect vehicle, was it a car, SUV?
It's a Hyundai Elantra.
Colonel, was that the one, what can you tell us about Aleppo Street, and then there was activity last night on Joslin Street?
Yeah, so Providence recovered that Hyundai Elantra on Aleppo Street, and that was later on in the evening, and so we do have that vehicle here at Cranston Police Headquarters. And what was the other location?
There was police activity last night I saw on Joslin Street in
Yep,
Providence.
so we did go to Joslin Street with Providence. We had information that the victim's phone was pinging at a residence there. So to use all precaution, we worked with Providence Police Department and used their tactical team to make entry, and there was nobody inside when they entered the location.
Can you tell us what section of Providence the victim is from?
He lives in that Joslin Street.
He
area.
lives there?
Yes,
Okay.
Manhattan Avenue.
Oh, wow, okay.
Is there any more information you can share about the victim? Did he go to school in the Providence area? Was he involved in the community at all?
I don't know if he was going to school, I don't believe so at the time. Don't have a lot of information. Again, you know, we spoke to his mom, and, you know, they said he was a good kid, and, you know, sometimes, you know, you're in the wrong situation, maybe with the wrong people, and I think that was the situation here, but, you know, 16 years old is so young, you know, it's just a kid, and a lot of the detectives were remarking, they have kids that age, you know, so to see a young man, his life cut so short is tragic.
Colonel, what do you want to tell there's another suspect out there? What should that suspect know, and what should the public know?
Well, I can tell you that our clearance rate for homicides since I've been here is 100%.
Mhm.
So if the person's out there, you know, the best to come forward, because we will identify you and we will apprehend you, just like we did this other person. So we've got one of the best detective divisions around, so I'm confident in their abilities.
Can you touch on, after this happened, it's before 10 o'clock, what happened hours that led to, I mean, this is less than 24 hours later and you have an arrest. What can you tell us about, what was going on behind the scenes?
Well, I mentioned we're reviewing surveillance footage. We're interviewing a lot of different people, family members, to try to figure out who he was last with. And then there's just multiple interviews that spin off from there. And of course, the license plate reader technology, we're bringing out social media accounts. The whole team's doing something different, you know? And at some point, they're working cohesively, but all have different roles, if you will. And they did a tremendous job. Our BCI unit that processed the scene for evidence. And of course, our detectives that were in Boston this morning were actually assigned to the Violent Fugitive Task Force, two detectives, you know, that will be actually right there and make the apprehension. And I believe once that apartment is searched, I'm confident we're gonna end up with more evidence related to a homicide.
So he's being held in mass, and then any idea when he may show up in Rhode Island?
It all depends on if charges are lodged by Massachusetts authorities. Sometimes these take a while. Obviously, he could fight extradition, and then you have to get a governor's warrant. It could be weeks, it could be, if he waives extradition, they have no charges, he could be back as soon as this week.
But it's
Huh.
unclear when a hearing in Massachusetts might happen.
It's unclear, I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to arraign him this afternoon, that's up to Massachusetts State Police. Yeah, we don't know if they have charges, but he will have to be arraigned as a fugitive from justice. And then how he decides to go from there, I'm assuming he'll be held. So, either extradited back here and, you know, face a first-degree murder count.
Sir, is this his first run-in with the law? Do we know of?
I don't have his criminal history with me, but I understand that he may have a criminal past. There may be some gang involvement. He's originally from Chicago and moved to Fall River not too long ago. So that's kind of how he knows some of the people here that lived in Fall River, that live in Providence now. So there was a lot of work, and Fall River PD was great to work with. They were very helpful, and some other departments that I mentioned, they all played a role.
Can you touch on the detective division and just, it's my impression the group worked through the night on this case?
Yeah, they didn't stop, so kudos to them. Again, we don't get a lot of homicides in Cranston, thankfully, so when we do, it's all hands on deck, and that includes myself, the major, whoever else. So we were here very late into the night, early morning. They made great progress. The murder warrant was signed late last night, about midnight, a little before
Wow.
midnight. And once that warrant was signed, we began tracking him, and we were able to track him up to Boston today, and he was arrested.
Wow.
Going back to the homicide, is this the first homicide this year? Did I miss that?
Yes, for us, yes.
For us in Cranston? And
Yes.
since before then, what was the last homicide?
Need some help with this one. That's a good thing, I don't know if Catherine. July of last year.
July of last year.
An individual was run over by a vehicle, and, you know, we tend to get maybe one a year, some years zero. Those are the best years when we get a zero. But, again, this is a very safe city. I know there's been a lot of high-profile incidents, and the immediate thought is what's going on in Cranston. Well, number one, we're extremely transparent. I think you all know that we give you the information, we don't hide anything, and we have a great police department. We make the arrest, but we are a city. Like the people that we've we've dealt with in the past have come from other localities, if you will. And it's our job to police everybody and keep our residents safe, and we'll continue to do that. But our crime rate is very low. It remains very low.
In reviewing that surveillance footage, does it appear that the attack was planned out, or does it look like something escalated while they were at the?
That's a great question, because obviously we're not at liberty to know what they're saying. We can see body language. You know, my immediate thoughts is that this was maybe planned out to a certain extent. It almost looked like an execution. That's how I would describe it from what I saw.
Hard to
Now,
see?
It is hard to see, because, you know, this young man was trying to escape, and, you know, unfortunately, he was chased down, and he was murdered. I mean, it's horrible.
Colonel, maybe you already covered it, but who was driving the vehicle? Where was the victim sitting when they arrived?
So the suspect was driving the vehicle. I believe, correct me if I'm not wrong, that the victim was in the front
Passenger seat?
Front passenger seat, yeah.
Okay, and
He
so
was in the back, but then he was in the front.
Okay, and but then the suspect that's on the loose was then sitting in the back?
The suspect that's in the, yes.
On the
yes,
loose?
yes.
Okay. Do you have anything else on this? So this individual from Chicago ends up in Fall River. Anything else as far as gang affiliation?
Well, there's a lot of neighborhood gangs, you know, that are out there, so, you know, it seems these days everybody's affiliated with somebody or some
Yep.
crew, if you will. There's a lot of people out there that are stealing Hyundais and Kias, so there's the Kia boys, and there's all these groups out there, and they just get together, and that's basically what they do. So, I don't know how familiar the victim was with the suspect and his friend. I don't think it was a really close relationship, but again, they knew somebody in common, and that's how they linked up.
I see.
Have you been able to track down where they got these weapons?
That will be part of the investigation, so hopefully we can recover the weapons. That's the first part. We hope they're in the Fuller Street residence, and then we'll do a full trace, and we'll do a ballistic testing, and we'll work with the Massachusetts authorities to do that, and hopefully we can work our way backwards. But most often, the weapons are stolen from a house break somewhere. That's usually what the case. They're usually lawfully purchased, but then stolen.
It'd be pretty jarring, Chief, describing that as execution style. I'm just curious, from a timeline perspective, how quickly were those first shots fired from when they stepped out of the car?
Within a minute. I mean, it was quick. It was, you know, there's flashlights and people were moving around, and, you know, they never actually got into a vehicle, like never broke into a vehicle. They weren't successful in doing that. And then as soon as the victim talked, you can see two people kind of talking back and forth, almost like they were planning this, and you can see one individual, the suspect, we believe, remove a weapon, a firearm, a pistol, and as the individual comes around towards the back of the car, immediately, that's when he was, the first shots were fired.
When you said he was trying to escape, what did you mean by that?
Well, there were several shots fired. I don't believe he got hit with all the shots, and he was running.
But you believe right now that the initial goal for them was to steal a car? That's why they showed up there? That's what it appeared to be?
It appeared to be that way, based on the items seized from the scene, the fact they arrived in a stolen car, the implements, like I said, they had with them, and then, you know, some of the interviews we've done, we believe that was either their real intent or it could have been a ruse. We'll never, I don't know if we'll ever know. I don't know if this individual is gonna cooperate. We are trying to interview him, but chances are he probably won't tell us that. We might never get to the bottom of that question. Any more questions?
Just, Mayor, if you want to, do you want to mention how this is the second high-profile situation, but it was immediately solved by your police department?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the work that our detectives did overnight. They were absolutely fantastic. The major and the colonel took the lead. They were here. We talked to each other about midnight last night, so it was pretty late that we were in communication with each other. So again, I just want to reiterate that the city of Cranston is very safe. If you notice the two high-profile incidents that you're talking about, those people came in from Massachusetts. They're not from Rhode Island. They're not from Cranston. And I'm going to tell you this. If you come into my city, we're going to catch you if you do something wrong. That better be very, very clear to everybody out there. If you think you're gonna come into Cranston and you're going to break the law, we've got the best police department going, and they will catch you.
You know, Mayor, one of the first people I spoke to today, a Cranston resident on the street, told me that the police were gonna have this solved by the end of the day. And it seems, you know, he has certainly had made some steps in that direction. How important is it for you to have the public's trust in the safety of this city?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I did go on some social media to see what some of the responses were, and there were people talking about Cranston becoming another crime-ridden city, and that's absolutely not true. We are the safest city. We've got statistics that will report that, and once again, I'm telling you, I will give the police department whatever they need to keep our residents safe. And if you want to come into Cranston and you want to violate the laws of our city, we will catch you and we will prosecute you.
Wow.
Any other questions?
I just want to cross-check again something that a witness had told me. He was saying that he heard arguing from outside of his home for, I think he said like about 15 to 20 minutes before he heard the loud bang. So you're just saying that it was very quick, it was not that long, it just took about a minute?
Yes.
Okay. Just
It might have been somebody else up there, but,
Yeah.
wasn't, they weren't there for 15 to 20 minutes.
15, 20 minutes, okay, got it, thank you.
Excuse me if you said this already, I know 2 vehicles were seized as evidence, one was obviously the stolen one. What was the other vehicle that was?
Another vehicle that was hit with a round.
Oh, I see.
Was
Okay.
needed to be recovered for ballistics purposes, and obviously the vehicle that the suspect's in is gonna be seized. Our detective will be following that back to Cranston Police Headquarters here to do forensic testing and search, but he was in a different vehicle today, so we have that vehicle.
That female acquaintance he was found with, will she be facing any charges of?
I don't know, I don't know if she was aware that he was on the run or anything like that, so that would be up to, based on the interviews Massachusetts does and the information that she might have known at the time. He was just up there last night, but that's not typically where he stays.
Gotcha.
You mentioned the Coventry Police, what was their involvement?
So, they had some stolen firearms from their town, and one of the suspects from that incident was loosely connected to our incident. So some of the intelligence that we received from Coventry was helpful for our investigation.
Could those be the firearms used in this?
I don't believe so, no. The types of firearms stolen were not .40 caliber. They were rifles, actually.
Gotcha.
Colonel, also Providence was helpful, instrumental yesterday with this?
We have a great relationship with Providence. I talked to Colonel Perez. He gave us all resources we possibly could need. We have Providence detectives here. They were very helpful, the juvenile unit and some of the other detectives. So, yep, they were very helpful. And, you know, obviously to basically do an assault, if you will, on a home like that with a SWAT team, it takes 20 plus people. So you can imagine there's a cost to that too. But that was the only way you could safely execute that search warrant. So there was nobody inside, but you don't know what you're facing. And they used their Bearcat vehicle, which you're familiar with. I'm very happy to report that, thanks to the mayor's support, we have ordered our own Bearcat, and we will have that sometime in June of next year. It takes a while to build it, but that will keep our officers safe. We borrow other people's vehicles and they come and they help us, and that's great, but we have enough calls for service and SWAT calls that we need our own vehicle. So the mayor was able to make that happen. That's not an easy purchase to make. It's a very expensive vehicle.
You guys are making it like a TV show, like it's solved right away.
Well, these things, these homicides, sometimes they take weeks. This all came together, and again, it's all about the work. And Captain McAteer, he runs our detective division, Sergeant Sweeney's in the back. They're a little camera shy, but I'm not afraid to praise them. And
Detective Lindsay?
Yeah, Detective Lindsay was out there last night, and the lead detectives are actually in Boston right now, so they're doing a fantastic job. And you know, again, we still have a lot of work to go. And I do want to mention the AG's office, because as soon as we have one of these, we call them and they come out. And it was hot yesterday, it was a holiday, and they're out to just like us, pounding the pavement, giving us legal guidance, and they were here right to the very end. They were here midnight when we left, they were still there. Just want to mention that. They're not here right now. We did offer them the opportunity to come, but they'd like to work behind the scenes as well.
Message is don't fool around in Cranston.
I think the mayor said it great, and we have a great police department, we have the technology, we have the expertise. We're a decent-sized department, we're a mid-sized police department, but the drive of these officers and detectives, I put them up against any other police department. Very, very proud of their work, proud to be the chief.
Oh, I'd say,
How much do those Bearcat vehicles cost?
400 and, what's exact? $430,000. But, you know, when we were looking at it, and the mayor and I were talking about it, what's a life worth? What's a police officer's life worth? We can, you know, we buy a lot of other things in the city, and that's great, but every officer's life is worth more than $430,000 in my opinion. And that vehicle will protect so many officers. We've gone to scenes where we've had officers that were pinned down, where shots were being fired outside a house, a suicidal male, and the officer was stuck there for like a while. We couldn't get him out. We had to wait till Providence came with their Bearcat, East Providence. We were able to extricate him and some of the neighbors. So it's a vehicle that's 100% necessary in this day and age. We're a big department, we definitely need it.
Was getting it a direct response to this shooting or
No,
combination?
This has been talked about a while, and there's a bunch of incidents that really opens our eyes and say, it's time, because Providence, great, they help us, East Providence, State Police, and Warwick, I think, they're waiting for theirs. So, we can't wait, seconds count, time counts in this situation. So, the fact that we'll have our own, we'll be able to like, go right from here and get there quickly and keep our officers and citizens of this city safe.
I just had one last question. So I know you mentioned earlier how unusual it was that no one reported the loud bangs that they called, that you had reported in. I'm just curious, was it all surprising that there was a body that was also out there for as long as it was? It sounds like maybe 6 hours and no one saw it until 6 hours later.
It was somewhat odd, but if you saw where I don't know, some of you were out there yesterday, but it was a far parking lot area, and it was like he was lying right next to a vehicle, and there's a fence on the other side. So, yeah, I guess nobody really, you know, goes that way. There was no other cars really parked around it, so it was a little bit odd, but not totally, you know, not totally off. It wouldn't happen that way, but, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
I know
have-
that we mentioned also like how, of course, Cranston is very safe, but is there anything else that you would like for people to know to take away from this tragic incident?
Well, we need your help. I mean, at the end of the day, when incidents happen like this, somebody always saw something and they said, you know, I wonder if I should call the police. You know, it's so small, the detail, but that detail could be the difference between us solving a case and not. And our anonymous tip line, it gets some use, but I'm surprised we don't get more. You could call anything. It could be somebody selling drugs from a house. It could be, you know, you witness an accident, whatever it is. If you don't want to be identified, it actually strips the person's text, their phone number, and then we're still able to do a two-way communication, which is important. Sometimes we want to ask a question. In the old tip system, you couldn't do that. So we can actually do an anonymous two-way, and you know what? You have our confidence. If you do want to come forward in person, if you don't want to be identified, we accept that as well. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Breathing down your neck that whole time. I was breathing down your neck.
that's all right.
You didn't tell them about our new book?
Just in my head.
One already.
What's this about?
Vinny, where's Bobby Lindsay, working on that jump shot? Sean wants one?